Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Virginia Fiume, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Bakudo. And I'm here today with Vanhoutte, who is our inception advisor and one of the best smarter career advisor in Europe and in the US. And today we are going to cover the topic of how to boost your career as an independent professional with a unique methodology. There will be our presentation and some time for Q&A in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. So please feel free to contribute to the conversation and ask your questions at the end. I will give it the word to Philip to kick off. And so thank you for joining again from Bakudo, and let's have fun together.
Thank you, Virginia, and hello to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to share some views around the mastering of independent careers here today. Let me start by saying that in the Middle Ages, independent professionals were the drivers of the economy with their powerful guilds. But a couple of 100 years ago, the arrival of the industrial age made a lot of professionals go to work for others, now called employers. But the good news is that over the past few decades, a lot of professionals are cutting loose from the employers. And in fact, it feels a bit like we're going back to the future. This was covered very well in a book called Free Agent Nation by the famous Daniel Pink, who was at that time in 2002 saying that the future of working was going to be a future of working for yourself. For those of you who are not familiar with independent working, I recommend a quick read of the book. It actually took a while for companies to realize that work could be done beyond employment. You don't need to employ people for them to work for you. And again, for those who like to read up on things, this book, which is just a year and a half old, is now the reference book for business people and HR leaders to appreciate the multiple modalities with which talent can be put to good work in your company. Now, I was myself on the corporate employment treadmill for nearly 4 decades. And over the last 2 years, I'm an independent professional too. In fact, from a Belgian tax point of view, I'm now a single person enterprise, how they call it over there. So, but reflecting on it, overnight, I actually think I have been a freelancer for about 50 years. It started when I was a teenager. I was creating some art and I sold it afterwards for some good pocket money. When I grew up as a student, I worked as a postman in the Belgian coastline. And then when I had a driver license, I did plenty of jobs as a delivery van driver. But most importantly, if you ask my wife, I was a very good DJ, professional DJ for about 5 years. So I was able to self-sustain and actually fund my life from the age of 16 on by just doing these kind of jobs, by making a bit of money. But in the core of my career, which you see displayed here, I actually felt like a freelance work ethic all the time. And let me explain what I mean by that. For me, working has always been about being a mercenary, like a maverick mercenary, a person that is curious to learn, always wants to be useful for others, and is very kind to share the know-how and the skill, even for free, so that other people can try and buy what can be offered. And in doing so, people say, gee, you're good at this. I would like to give you a challenging assignment. And that's how I got going in my job. In fact, my first job in what is now called Accenture, I basically was given assignments by Accenture who sent me out to customers. And I was, again, like a maverick consultant at that point in time. Now, a good criteria for an independent worker is how fast you get paid. I can tell you I never had to ask people to pay my invoices, which is a good sign of value add. And of course, by the time the assignment was completed or the opportunity exhausted, I moved on, sometimes also because I didn't like entirely the kind of organization or people I was working for any longer. So as you can see here, I work for 10 employers in about 20 payroll situations across 5 countries. And about every year, there was a junction. There was a new opportunity to embrace. But what I was missing all the time was a systematic approach on how you do these transitions. And it took me actually quite a while to discover who I was myself, my strengths, my personality, and so forth. And I also had to discover the many facets of the world of work. I mean, companies are different, industry sectors, countries, and so forth. So in doing so, as I was curious in listening and reading up on it, I developed a systematic approach to career transitions. And overall, my career was actually pretty rewarding in several ways. But in hindsight, I must confess that I took some wrong turns. And if I would have had a method of going about that, I would have avoided those things. But hey, but the most striking thing for me was that I had very few employers that facilitated my career. So already in my early 30s, I decided that I would pave my own way. And I started to listen to other people that were good at progressing their careers. I read about these things, self-development, career manuals, and so forth. And I developed my own career discipline. And in doing so, I also helped others because I saw that people appreciated a little coaching and they were very grateful. But what I also saw was that I was not alone in my search. I saw a lot of people that were lost, people that were searching for a career direction, people that didn't understand themselves too well, people that actually wasted their own talent. So 4 years ago, I actually published and co-authored a book called The Smarter Working Manifesto, which was at that time all centered around leveraging digital technology and therefore having the freedom to choose spaces, technology, and the correct behaviors to work well. But already at that time in chapter 4, I dedicated an entire chapter on smarter careers, which is all about people appreciating the new flexibility they have to work anywhere, anytime they feel is right for them and for the business. And it created for me a new perspective of opportunities, sometimes called digital nomads, but I don't think it covers the whole topic that we are talking about today. So then 2 years ago, I felt there was time for me to move on and to concentrate exactly on the latter, which is smarter careers. So I set out for myself a mission, don't laugh. I said, I'm going to curate and foster adoption for a set of tools and services that help humans make the most out of their potential. Now, what did I do for that? Well, it was quite easy. I went back to all of the best sources that I had been using before. In fact, there were some new sources, or in fact, books that already had their 40th edition. What's the color of your parachute is one of those. I think Mr. Bolles has done a fantastic job in keeping that whole methodology up to date, but it was insufficient. There's other things out there that needed to be put into the mix. Yeah. So, and then about 10 months ago, I had the opportunity to share what I had learned in Austin, Texas, at South by Southwest Interactive, together with some 3 good buddies of mine, a gentleman which is specializing in meaning at work, another person that is working on next generation personality and energy profiling, and a person that has created a career fitness profiler. We had a 3-hour seminar on the topic of personal career management, key to self-realization. So let me share quickly to you what we shared 10 months ago. In essence, what we said is that career discipline is about a meta competency that you will use many, many times in your life. And it covers 3 domains. One domain has to do with yourself, who you are, what you have to offer, what's your personal brand. The other domain has to do with the world of work. Yeah. And then, of course, these 2 come together at particular junctions in career transition and cycles, and that's what happens in the middle. I'm going to now give you 3 slides that summarize what has to happen in each of those 3 domains. So here we go. So first of all, there is the domain of self, right? There's actually 3 things in there. There is answering 3 questions, and then there is a new thing called career fitness. Yeah. So the first question that you need to be able to ask yourself, and which others are going to ask you, is what can you offer? And in that space, there is 3 things. There is horizontal skills. Do you know how to sell? Do you have a sense of finance and numbers? Do you know how to deal with people? And so forth. These are things that you find on balance in most companies. You may not do it all, but you need to have a good grasp of it. Secondarily, there is your specialist vector, right? It's something that you specialize in, be it accounting or creative, in a particular industry sector. And last but not least, there is how you appreciate and self-manage. These are all the softer aspects around personality, energy, stress, and all these kind of things. So that's the pot of things that you can offer. But you're not alone in this world. There's other people that offer these things too. So you need to be able to answer the questions, why you? What is making you so unique? And that's exactly the area where you then distill your strengths and you inject that into your personal brand, mission, and statement. Fine. Now, the next one may take a bit of time before you clarify that for yourself. It's all about career preferences. When you start to work, because you haven't worked, you cannot judge a number of these factors. So it may take 5 to 10 years before you can articulate what you want. What things are we talking about? It is about the kind of people that you prefer to work with or you can work with well. It's about the kind of workplace conditions. Do you like to work in a concrete building with no windows from 9 to 5 and having the city commute every day? Yeah, it's about you deciding when you want to work. If you're a night owl, you are going to kill yourself trying to wake up early in the morning to do things where your body cannot contribute. And then there is also the kind of role, reward, and status that goes with that. Now, there is other things about career preferences that you should not forget. And these are the more lofty things. Yeah, I mean, some people at a point in their lives are starting to ask themselves, what am I doing this work? Why am I doing it? What's the significance? What's the meaning? What's the purpose? Yeah, and I'm privileged to work with people which are Danny Goodconnect, which is specialist in this matter, and which has written a book about meaning at work from a personal point of view and from an organizational point of view. And these things, I mean, especially for the younger generation, is very, very top of mind with them. Now, last, you see this topic called career vitality. Vitality is all about identifying the key meta skills to keep this career going. I'm making a comparison here with physical fitness. Yeah, I mean, physical fitness we are all familiar with, but we don't have anything equivalent to career fitness. So in this particular area, what you need to do is look in the mirror and find the intrinsic and extrinsic motivators for you. Are you thirsty for status? Do you need that big BMW? Do you need to earn a lot of money? Do you need to show around the status of your role? Some people do, others don't. Then there is the intrinsic driver, what you want to achieve for yourself and for society. Then there is a topic called career power, which is all about having the capacity to contemplate and look at the radar of opportunities and at the right time, go for these things. Yeah. And then finally, there is career energy. Career energy, which is all about managing the stressful situations of transition and understanding if your batteries are still there to propel you forward. So that's one. That's the self-discovery part. The other part has to do with now, that's a big world out there, right? There is about 50 industry or service sectors. In any kind of company, there's about 25 different major roles that you can do. Yeah, and then often not documented, there is the various work styles. Those are the things that you discover when you start to work, and we're not in the announcement of the role or the assignment. So you need to understand what work market is appealing to you. Once that is done, you've got to decide the modality of your work. As I explained, me and my father, yeah, I mean, we were employed by others for a good portion of our career. These days, a lot of people start like that, but after a while they're saying, I got some specialist know-how, I will make that available as an independent professional, as a free agent. And then sometimes they say, hey, a couple of other people, freelancers or otherwise employed, I could entrepreneur and start my own business. And if I look at my own, my sons, they actually basically have a helix whereby they have a couple of years that they're with a large company, they are operating as a free agent, and they intertwine these things over their career. Not a bad approach, because it's not about having a mono type of career. Then, once you know which market you're going to operate in, what kind of modality, then you're going to start looking out there for kind of work providers. I don't call them employers anymore, work providers. It could be somebody that offers a job, but it could be somebody who's going to be a customer of yours. At that moment in time, you need to understand what they do in that segment. Which segments are they focusing on, right? Are they in fashion, and what kind of fashion? What kind of products or services are they offering? What is really the culture of that company? What is the higher order meaning that makes people come to work every day? What are the work conditions that they are providing, and in the particular packaging of the job, right? Are you recruited for a role, like I'm going to do this for 5 years or for 10 years or the rest of my life, or am I going to do a project assignment? Or maybe I'm going to work there for a couple of days, right? So the packaging can be different. Once you've done that, and absolutely at that point in time, you will fall in love with some company, you got to pause for a moment, and before you jump to the greener grass on the other side, you got to do your due diligence. I'm telling you because I've not done it a couple of times in my career and wasted some time and years. You got to get an inside track, get to talk to people who work in that company, and not just the guys that are providing propaganda or doing the employer branding kind of thing. You got to listen to their customers, their partners, industry analysts, and competitors to get a balanced and rational view before you commit. So having talked about yourself, and then about the organizations and the work at large, let's now talk about how we bring that together. Yeah. So we said before that people are going to do multiple cycles. Let's put this into context. People will be working on balance in between 50 until they're 70. That's 50 years. And in the US, the average career transition happens every 18 months. That means now in the United States, people do that 30 plus times. Yeah, that's the reason why it becomes a competency that needs to be mastered. So here what we're doing is we're basically combining your capability with a work opportunity that's out there. Now, I heard once from a gentleman which is focusing on creative careers, that if you're a brand, then this phase is all about preparing for a campaign for the brand. You need to be very clear what you have to offer for the next round of assignment. You got to be explicit about your latest career ambitions. That's the internal part. But then you also need to update your fascination edge. Why is it that people will be saying, oh, Virginia, I mean, having listened to you, having had that meal, I think we really need to work together, because it is the external part of that. Then, if it's a new industry sector, it may very well be that you have to try it out. So therefore, volunteering in a niche is not a bad thing. The other thing you got to do these days is you're going to clean up your social media profile, because a lot of people are going to check you out, and you could actually be sifted out before you realize. So once that is done and you're prepared, then you got to implement this stuff. Now, before you start talking about yourself, I would recommend that you get others to talk about you, right? There's nothing better than former customers or employers to talk about you. And when you then get to talk, make sure that you have a good storytelling about what your career has been about, and the junction and the changes, so that people understand the rationale, what went on in your head. Once that is done, it's all about what I would call barking up the right tree. Don't spend endless time with the HR folks in the middle. Don't get stuck with procurement directors. Make sure that you talk directly to the people that are in charge of that part of the business or the function. Yeah. In the process of doing that, don't neglect all the platforms that can be used for recruiters and influencers. And when that is done, you will get to that magical moment where you are meeting that person, which suddenly professionally falls in love with you. That's when magic is happening. That's when the organization mission and your individual aspirations are lining up in terms of meaning. And then you will shake hands on an alliance and what I call a tour of duty. So that's a quick nutshell about what this covers, the career discipline of practice. And now, of course, the question is, what about independent professionals? Yeah. What I just explained in a couple of minutes was this applies to everybody, but it applies even more to independent professionals because they are lonely. Yeah. And you've seen about 40 plus boxes of things that you need to do. Some people will be saying by this time, gee, that's a lot of work. Well, I'm sorry, there is no shortcuts to be taken. But I can tell you one thing, is that the better you are at articulating your uniqueness and your preferences, the better the dialogue is going to be with that work provider, which in his turn needs to be very clear about the assignment specifically, but also the broader setting of the work culture. Yeah? And at that point in time, the chances of hitting a mutually satisfying tour of duty will happen. And I think that's a very good moment to introduce Bakudo, because I was fascinated to meet Emma and Virginia back 5 months ago now, when they introduced to me their strong desire and passion to go about creating a tool and a service set to do exactly that. So I'm passing the word back to Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip, and thanks for everyone that is connected with us. As I said, at the end, we will also have some time to ask questions to Philip and myself. But now I just want to tell you a bit about the Bakudo experience. I'm Virginia, I'm the co-founder of Bakudo, and what we did in the past month was to transform what we learned also from Philip in a methodology that can be used by independent professionals. Bakudo matches independent professionals, freelancers, consultants, call them what you want, with businesses. And we try to do it finding the right match. To do that, we discovered the importance of a conversational interface. So Philip explored the different aspects that as a freelancer, as an independent professional, you need to take into account to fully understand who you are, what you like to do, how you like to do it. And sometimes doing this can feel lonely. As Philip mentioned, there are no shortcuts. You need to think, and sometimes thinking is hard. So what we learned by our experience, by the people that we talk to, is how it's important to have meaningful conversations. If you talk with the most successful people, often in their career path, they had the chance to talk with someone that was able to ask them the right questions and to give them space to come up with the answers. And sometimes a conversation is just a way to think about ourselves. So we thought, how we can create something that can facilitate this conversational approach. And here we came up with the idea of the virtual mentor. The virtual mentor is a product by Bakudo, is a product that we will develop in the future more and more, that help a professional to sit for a limited time framework and ask themselves the right questions. So it's not about having a profile that lists all your projects, experiences. It's more about identifying things like what makes you successful, or which are the experiences that you had in life that built the person and the professional that you are. And also some personality traits, characteristics that make you unique, and that this mix makes a professional someone that is unique. So the virtual mentor is friendly. He doesn't comment on the answers. He just listens to the question, he just listens to the answers. It goes beyond the pure scope of a project and deep dive into the reason why, the uniqueness, the experience, the history, the professional story. And also ask questions that are not just about you as a professional, but what other people would tell about yourself. And answering these things helps you to look at yourself from multiple angles at the same time. So the journey with the virtual mentor, the conversation that we are able to create, helps professionals to know themselves better, which is always a good thing, but also helps Bakudo to know you better, so that then when it's time to match professionals with businesses, we are able to take into account all of this. So here is just a quick overview of how Bakudo works. And we need to think about something. You might know yourself very well, But if you're talking with a client, a business that doesn't know himself so well, then all the good thoughts. So what we do is to have 2 discovery journeys, one for the independent professionals and one for the businesses, so that both sides can go through a process of discovery, articulation, understanding, identification of the drivers, the missions. And then when the match happens because the data are crossed, the information are crossed, and all the elements that make a good match are taken into account. And Bakudo helps the professionals to be matched not only with the businesses, but potentially with other free agents, with other independent professionals, so that the value that you can bring to the business is more visible, because it means it's based on your true self. So this is how we are trying to implement the tour of duty that we have toward ourselves as independent professionals. Yeah. I'm now stop sharing my screen, and we are both very happy to answer your questions. Give me 1 second. No more screen sharing. And here we are back. Hello, everyone. I should be able to see the questions. That I don't. The pleasure of real time. One second that we can see the question. Okay. Just type, there is a window beside the screen where you can type your questions. So if you write there, we should be able to see them. Okay, it seems there are no questions. If you want, you can also send us the question via email to our email connect@bekudo.com. So I'm keeping an eye there as well, so that you can see if there are questions coming. But it seems we are all very quiet. So Philip, I think we covered a lot.
We saturated people, right?
Exactly.
I mean, some people are already thinking about how to apply things,
exactly.
Which is fantastic. Good listeners, good students. So we wish them well with that, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, here I see. Okay, so to summarize, do your duty and discover yourself.
Exactly. No shortcuts. Do the hard work. The better you do it, the faster you're going to be able to display what you're capable of, and people will come and start giving you great challenges.
And on my side, we are more than welcome to try the Bekudo Virtual Consultant. It's a beta. We are building it day by day. You just need to go on bekudo.com, BEKUDO.com. There is a field for professionals. You go there, you start your journey, and you can start this conversation, and we will be ready to match you with businesses. And if you want, you still have the experience of learning a bit about yourself and be more strong in the job market and more successful. Bekudo.com. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and you can join us, join this journey with us. And thanks for taking the time for our webinar.
Thank you very much.
Bye.